Welcome, my child. Stop right here. Just for this moment, let the spinning of the earth continue without your permission. I see you. I see the invisible weight pulling heavily on your shoulders, the deep exhaustion you hide behind a tired smile, and the frantic racing of your mind that absolutely refuses to let you rest. You have been running for so long, trying desperately to outpace the anxiety that breathes down your neck, pushing yourself past the limits of your own endurance. You are exhausted, not just physically tired from the demands of a long week, but deeply, profoundly, soul-weary. You have been carrying a heavy, jagged load that was never meant for your fragile frame, trying to piece together a complicated puzzle when you cannot even see the picture on the box. Breathe. Draw a deep, slow breath in and let it out. You are safe here in my presence. In this exact moment, you do not need to be strong. You do not need to be brave. And you certainly do not need to have all the answers neatly arranged. The world outside this quiet space is incredibly loud. It is demanding, harsh, and unrelenting. It screams at you from the moment you wake until you finally close your eyes, telling you that you are falling behind, that you are failing, that if you drop even one of the many plates you are spinning, everything will shatter into 1,000 unrecoverable pieces. The volume of modern life is deafening, filled with endless notifications, heavy expectations, and the constant rhythmic drumbeat of artificial urgency. But I am not the world. My voice is not found in the crushing pressure of a deadline or the rising panic of an unexpected crisis. My voice is the gentle, cooling breeze. It is the still, small whisper that waits patiently for the deafening roar of your worry to finally pause. I know exactly how overwhelmed you feel right now. I have watched you toss and turn in the dark, staring blankly at the ceiling, trying to untangle the knotted threads of your future, while the rest of the world sleeps peacefully. I know there are moments when you feel entirely spiritually stranded, isolated on a lonely island of your own. Fears, wondering if I have turned my face away from you, or if you have somehow wandered too far out of my reach. You look at the chaotic storms swirling around your life, the demands pulling constantly at your limited time, the responsibilities draining your physical and emotional energy, and you wonder how much longer you can realistically tread water before you sink beneath the surface. You are gripped by a quiet, persistent fear of failure. It is a harsh, looming shadow that whispers lies into your ear, telling you that one wrong step, one single mistake, will ruin everything you have worked so hard to build. It forces you to constantly calculate, plan, and worry, convincing you that your survival depends entirely on your own exhausting, independent efforts. But listen to my voice right now, and let my comforting words wash over the frantic, jagged edges of your weary mind. I have not forgotten you. I have never, for a single second, abandoned you to navigate this turbulent ocean alone. The silence you have felt recently is not my absence. It is simply the world's frantic noise, drowning out my gentle, steadfast presence. The panic you feel is a thief designed specifically by the enemy to steal the breath from your lungs, the joy from your days, and the hope from your heart. It is time to shut the heavy iron door on the chaos. I am asking you for just 3 minutes. Silence the world. Turn away from the glowing screens, the endless stream of bad news, the heavy expectations of others, and the urgent demands that insist they must be addressed right this very second. Give me these next few moments of your completely undivided attention. In these 3 minutes, the world will not collapse because you stopped holding it up. Your problems will not multiply simply because you took your eyes off them to look up at me. Instead, something beautiful and miraculous will begin to happen in the atmosphere of your soul. By intentionally stepping out of the frantic rushing, you are making a deliberate, powerful declaration of trust. You are saying to your deepest fears, to your rising anxieties, and to your highly complicated circumstances, that I am greater, far greater, than them all. I want to free you from the exhausting, deeply ingrained illusion that you must figure everything out right now. You do not have to map out the next 10 years, or even the next 10 days today. You do not have to solve the impossible equation standing in front of you before the sun goes down tonight. That false urgency is a heavy, rusted chain wrapping tightly around your chest, restricting your ability to breathe deeply and experience my unconditional love. Let it fall to the floor. Right now, there is absolutely nothing you need to accomplish except to simply exist in my presence, allowing this sacred quiet to act as a healing balm over your overactive, exhausted mind. Let the silence do its holy work. I want to plant a truth deep inside your spirit today, a foundational law of my kingdom that will forever change the way you walk through every storm for the rest of your life. Listen closely to me, my beloved child. My peace comes before my miracle. The world loudly tells you that you will finally find peace only after the problem is completely solved. The world says that once the bank account is full, once the broken relationship is magically restored, once the health is fully returned, then and only then can you finally exhale and rest your weary bones. But heaven operates on a completely different rhythm, a much higher, purer frequency of grace. I desire to give you an unshakable quiet rest. Right here, right now, while the winds are still howling aggressively and the dark waves are still crashing violently against the bow of your fragile ship. If I hand you the miracle while your heart is still locked in a state of frantic worry and hypervigilance, the blessing will not feel like a blessing. It will simply become another fragile thing you are terrified of losing. The breakthrough would only add to your anxiety, giving you something else to protect and manage. My peace must prepare the soil of your heart to properly receive what I am about to do. Peace is not the absence of trouble. It is the absolute unbending certainty of my presence right in the middle of the fire. By choosing to embrace my peace before you see the tangible evidence of my provision, you are properly aligning your spirit with heaven. You are creating a wide, clear landing strip for the miraculous to arrive in its perfect time. So stop running. The exhausting, relentless race you are participating in has no actual finish line and no eternal reward, only deeper exhaustion and heavier burdens that will eventually break you. Stop striving for a flawless perfection that I never once asked you to achieve. I am not standing over you with a clipboard harshly grading your daily performance or keeping a meticulous ledger of your missteps and failures. I am standing beside you with open, loving arms, offering you a permanent, safe refuge from the violent storm that is raging outside these walls. Feel the warmth of my comforting embrace surrounding you right now, acting as an impenetrable divine shield against the fear of failure that has stalked your steps for far too long. Allow your tense, elevated shoulders to drop. Unclench your jaw. Release the tight, nervous tension you are holding in your neck, your back, and your hands. Breathe in my endless, refreshing grace, and exhale your desperate, tiring need to control the outcome of your life. We are going to walk through this together step by step, breath by breath, wrapped in a thick blanket of absolute safety. You have successfully silenced the loud, distracting noise of the world, and you have bravely stepped into my quiet, healing sanctuary. The blinding panic is beginning to subside, and a beautiful, intentional stillness is taking its rightful place within your mind. Now that we are here safely alone in the quiet, there is a heavy, painful burden in your hands that we must address. It is time to look closely at what you are holding on to so tightly and prepare to gently let it go. Look down at your hands, my child. In the spiritual realm, I see how tightly your fists are clenched. Your knuckles are white from the strain of holding on, your muscles aching from the constant, invisible effort of trying to manage the unmanageable. You have been gripping the fragile pieces of your life with such desperate force, terrified that if you relax your hold for even a single second, everything you love will slip through your fingers and shatter. You have convinced yourself that your intense grip is the only thing keeping your family safe, your future secure, and your world from spinning entirely off its axis. But I want to show you a gentle truth today, a truth that will begin to dismantle the heavy prison of your anxiety. The tight grip you are maintaining is not keeping your life together. It is only bruising your own spirit. This overwhelming need to control every outcome, to anticipate every disaster, and to micromanage your timeline is a painful illusion. It is an exhausting mirage the world has taught you to trust. You have been brought up to believe that responsibility means carrying the weight of the world on your own two shoulders. You have been told that if you just work harder, plan better, and worry more, you can somehow outsmart the storms of life, the constant knot in your stomach, the tension headaches that arrive like clockwork, the shallow breathing. These are all symptoms of a spirit that is trying to play God in its own life. But all this strategy has given you is a heart full of frantic anxiety and a soul that is far too tired to dream. I did not create you to carry this crushing burden. When I formed you, I designed your shoulders to carry the light, easy yoke of my grace, not the massive boulder of human control. The root of your deep exhaustion is simply this: you are trying to do my job. You are trying to be the author of your story, the provider of your security, and the protector of your future, all at once. You sit at your kitchen table late at night, staring at unpaid bills, trying to force the math to make sense, trying to manifest resources out of thin air. You stare at the glowing screen of your phone, reading bad news, and letting it dictate your emotional state, convinced that if you just gather enough information, you can protect yourself from the unexpected. You look at the calendar, watching the days slip by, feeling a rising tide of panic, because the timeline you established for your life is not unfolding exactly the way you planned. You worry about your health, your children, your career, and the 1,000 little variables that you absolutely cannot control, believing that your constant worrying is a form of protection. But worry is not a shield, my child. It is a heavy, rusted chain. Your fear of failure has convinced you that if you do not personally supervise every detail, I might forget about you. It whispers that my timing is too slow, that my provision might not arrive in time, and that you must step in to save yourself. Oh, how deeply I want to free you from this agonizing lie. I am the creator of the universe. I set the stars in their exact places, and I tell the raging oceans exactly where to stop. Do you truly believe that the intricate details of your life are too difficult for me to manage? Do you honestly think your financial struggles, your uncertain future, or your delayed dreams are too complex for my infinite wisdom to solve? It is time to physically and spiritually open your hands. I want you to open your palms right now, turning them upward as you sit in this quiet space. Feel the physical release of tension as your fingers uncurl. This simple physical act is a profound spiritual declaration. By opening your empty hands, you are signaling to heaven and to your own anxious heart that you are finally ready to surrender. Surrender is a word that the world entirely misunderstands. The world tells you that surrendering is a sign of weakness, a shameful defeat, a waving of the white flag when you have lost the battle. But in my kingdom, surrender is the ultimate act of courage. It takes immense bravery to admit that you do not have all the answers. It takes profound strength to let go of the steering wheel and trust that I know the safe way through the dark wilderness. Giving up control is not a failure. It is the first necessary step toward experiencing my protective, unconditional love in a way you never have before. When your hands are tightly clenched, holding desperately to your own plans and your own limited resources, there is absolutely no room for me to place my blessings into your palms. You are holding tightly to ordinary pebbles while I am standing right in front of you, waiting to give you precious diamonds. But your hands are simply too full to receive them. Let go of the rigid expectations you have placed on yourself and the people around you. Let go of the timeline you have worshipped. Let go of the exact picture you painted of how this phase of your life was supposed to look. I need you to remember the crucial truth we established just moments ago, because it is the master key that will unlock your current prison. My peace comes before my miracle. True lasting breakthrough cannot flow into clenched fists. If I were to force my miracle into your hands, while you are still gripping the painful illusion of control, you would immediately try to manage the miracle using your own exhausting methods. You would inadvertently turn my beautiful blessing into a brand new burden. I want your heart to be so anchored in my love that when the miracle finally arrives, you receive it with effortless joy rather than stressful management. This is precisely why I'm asking you to completely release the weight of your future into my capable hands today. I want you to experience the profound, unexplainable peace of knowing that your life is being managed by the God who loves you fiercely and perfectly. Lay down your intense fear of failure. Lay down the heavy shame that tells you your current struggles are proof that you have somehow messed up my plan for your life. You have not ruined anything. You are exactly where I need you to be for this next beautiful chapter of your spiritual growth to begin. The exhaustion you feel is simply the pain of trying to carry tomorrow's grace using only today's strength. I never promised to give you the strength to carry the burdens of tomorrow. I only promised to be a bright lamp unto your feet for the single step you are taking right now. So bring your finances to me and leave them at my feet. Bring your broken relationships, your career anxieties, and your deep unspoken fears about growing older and lay them all down. Do not simply show them to me and then pick them back up as you walk away. Leave them right here as you sit with your hands open intentionally, releasing your tight grip on the illusion of human control. Pay close attention to the shift happening within your chest. You should begin to feel a distinct physical weight lifting off your tired shoulders. That incredible lightness you are feeling is the heavy yoke of the world finally falling to the floor, replaced by the gentle, refreshing breeze of my grace. You are safe. You are fully protected. You do not have to orchestrate your own rescue, because your rescuer is already here standing firmly beside you in the quiet. I am fully aware of the deadlines approaching. I see the exact amount in your bank account. I know the difficult conversations you are dreading and the major decisions you are terrified of making. I have already walked into your tomorrow, and I have already prepared the way. You can finally stop holding your breath. You can finally allow yourself to deeply rest in the comforting certainty that I am actively working all things together for your absolute good, even when the process feels uncomfortable and strange. You have taken a monumental step today by giving up your desperate need to control the outcome. But even as the heavy burden of responsibility leaves your shoulders, I know that the empty space it leaves behind can suddenly feel vulnerable. As the loud noise of the world's panic fades into the background, another sound often tries to take its place. The physical silence can sometimes amplify the quiet, persistent whispers that have haunted you from the inside out. Now that your hands are empty and your spirit is resting, we must confront the dangerous lies that are still trying to echo in the quiet corners of your mind. When you finally drop the heavy burdens you have been carrying for so long, the sudden emptiness in your hands can feel strangely terrifying. The loud, chaotic roar of the world's demands has faded, but in this new, sacred silence, you are noticing a different kind of noise. It is not the shouting of deadlines or the rushing of society. It is the insidious, whispering echo of your own internal doubts. I see how these quiet lies creep out from the dark corners of your mind the moment you try to rest. They are the familiar, cruel voices of insecurity, that have stalked you for years, waiting for a moment of vulnerability to strike. Now that you are no longer distracted by running, these whispers are trying to convince you that this stillness is a mistake, that letting go of control has left you completely defenseless. But do not be afraid of this quiet battlefield. My child, we are going to shine a brilliant, blinding light on these shadows right now. The enemy knows that if he can keep your mind tangled in a web of self-loathing and paralyzing fear, he can prevent you from hearing the direct instructions I have prepared for you. He uses the silence against you, filling it with a thick fog of panic to drown out my truth. But his power over you is only an illusion, a house of cards built entirely on deception. Let us look directly at the specific lies you have been silently believing. I hear the cruel accusations that play on a continuous, agonizing loop in your mind. The voice that tells you it is simply too late for you. The whisper that insists you have made far too many mistakes, that you have squandered your best opportunities, and that you are now permanently disqualified from the beautiful future I originally designed for you. You have allowed a deep, paralyzing fear of failure to convince you that your past missteps are greater than my redeeming grace. You look at the broken pieces of your journey and the chapters you wish you could rewrite, and the enemy whispers that you are entirely defined by those shattered fragments. He tells you that you are falling behind your peers, that your season has passed, and that you will always be a step behind, struggling just to survive. These lies are so persistent, so perfectly tailored to your deepest insecurities, that you have slowly begun to accept them as absolute truth. You have started to believe that the heavy, suffocating anxiety sitting on your chest is simply your permanent reality. But I am here to tell you, with the absolute authority of the Creator, who breathed the stars into existence, that every single one of those whispers is a complete and total fabrication. Your mistakes have never once intimidated me. Your delays have never frustrated my timeline. You must understand the profound difference between the world's panic and my divine conviction. When I speak to you, even when I am gently correcting your course, my voice is always wrapped in overwhelming love, deep comfort, and absolute clarity. I do not use shame as a weapon. I do not use terror to motivate you. If the voice speaking in your mind is producing frantic anxiety, frantic worry, and a desperate sense of hopelessness, you can be absolutely certain that it is not my voice. I do not author confusion. I do not author terror. The dark, spiraling thoughts that tell you your situation is completely hopeless are intruders trespassing on the sacred territory of your soul. For far too long, you have been living as a passive victim of your own thoughts, allowing the enemy to set up a stronghold of fear right in the middle of your mind. You have politely entertained these lies, offering them a seat at your table and allowing them to dictate your emotional state. But today, in this very moment, that passive acceptance comes to an absolute end. I am calling you to rise up and actively reject the false narratives that have held you captive. It is time to evict the fear that has overstayed its welcome. You are not a helpless observer in your own mind. I have given you the ultimate authority to pull down every single argument and arrogant thought that tries to elevate itself above the truth of who I am and who I say you are. I want you to boldly realize your true identity in me today. When I created you, I did not knit a spirit of timidity, cowardice, or paralyzing fear into your DNA. That is not your spiritual heritage. The heavy blanket of anxiety you have been wearing is a foreign garment handed to you by a world that does not know my name. I have given you a spirit of immense power, of deep, unconditional love, and of a sound, well-balanced mind. Feel the truth of those words washing over you right now. A sound mind. A mind that is not fractured by worry or fragmented by endless variations of tragic scenarios. A mind that is anchored firmly to the bedrock of my eternal promises. You must begin to speak my spoken word over your life, using it as a sharp sword to cut through the suffocating vines of insecurity. When the voice of doubt tells you that you are alone and forgotten, you must confidently reply that I have promised to never leave you or forsake you. When the whisper of failure tells you it is too late, you must declare that I am the God of complete restoration, the one who makes all things new, and the architect of perfect second chances. Your defense against the internal noise is not trying to empty your mind, but rather filling it so completely with my truth that the lies simply have nowhere left to stand. This intentional fierce silencing of the enemy's voice is absolutely required for what we are about to do next. Remember the foundational law we established. My peace comes before my miracle. The profound, life-changing instructions I want to give you cannot be heard over the deafening roar of your own self-doubt. If your mind is constantly spinning with worst-case scenarios and desperate escape plans, you will completely miss the subtle, gentle directions I am trying to provide. True lasting breakthrough requires a mind that is at peace, completely confident in its divine identity. By replacing your internal chaos with my unwavering truth, you are actively preparing the landing strip for your miracle. You are building a fortress of faith that the storms of life cannot penetrate. I want you to experience a massive surge of spiritual confidence right now. Not a confidence based on your own abilities, your own perfect track record, or your own bank account, but a fierce, unshakable confidence in my unchanging character. You are a child of the Most High King. You are deeply loved, fiercely protected, and perfectly positioned for a miraculous turnaround. The fear of failure has completely lost its grip on you because your success was never dependent on your flawless performance. It has always been securely held in my grace. Take another deep, cleansing breath. Feel the heavy, suffocating atmosphere of doubt completely dissipating from the room, chased away by the blinding light of my spoken truth. The frantic internal whispers are falling completely silent, recognizing that they have been permanently stripped of their power over you. Your emotional state is radically shifting right before my eyes. You are no longer a battered victim tossed back and forth by every anxious thought. You are stepping into your rightful place as a victorious overcomer. The space inside your mind is finally clear, deeply peaceful, and washed clean of the world's toxic panic. You have successfully put the lies to flight, and your spiritual ears are now fully open, unblocked from the heavy wax of insecurity and fear. But before I can reveal the specific detailed blueprints for your future, and before we can begin the beautiful work of constructing your upcoming miracle, we must anchor this newly found silence into something permanent. Now that the immediate threat of the enemy's noise has been completely silenced, we must dive even deeper into the profound, absolute necessity of anchoring your soul in my divine rest, ensuring that this peace becomes your permanent home, regardless of what the external world throws your way. Now that the immediate threat of the enemy's noise has been completely silenced, we must dive even deeper into the profound, absolute necessity of anchoring your soul in my divine rest, ensuring that this peace becomes your permanent home, regardless of what the external world throws your way. True rest is not simply the absence of physical labor, nor is it just a few stolen hours of sleep at the end of an exhausting week. What I am offering you right now is a deep, unshakable sanctuary within your own spirit. For so long you have lived under the assumption that if you could just fix the outside world, your internal world would finally calm down. You have spent countless hours rearranging the circumstances of your life, trying to build a perfectly safe environment where nothing can ever hurt you or catch you off guard. But the core spiritual principle of my kingdom operates in the exact opposite direction. Internal alignment must precede external change. If your heart is still running a frantic marathon, even the most beautiful blessing will feel like a threat. I want you to close your eyes and picture the chaotic waves of your current circumstances crashing violently against the shore of your life. Until now, your natural instinct has been to run frantically along the beach, trying to hold back the tide with your bare hands, begging the water to recede. But I am asking you to step back from the water's edge, turn around, and walk into the quiet fortress of my presence. I am guiding you away from the frantic search for immediate solutions and redirecting your focus towards simply seeking my face. Listen closely to the gentle rhythm of my heartbeat and let it regulate your own. I need to explicitly teach you why. My peace comes before my miracle. You have been desperately begging for a massive sweeping intervention. You want the debt erased immediately, the relationship completely healed by morning, or the perfect door of opportunity to swing wide open today. And while I deeply desire to give you those good gifts, I love you far too much to hand them to you, while your soul is still caught in a whirlwind of panic. If I grant the blessing, while your soul is still in turmoil, the miracle will only become another burden for you to manage. Imagine handing a priceless, delicate treasure to someone whose hands are violently trembling from fear. They would not be able to enjoy the beauty of the gift. They would only be terrified of dropping it. That is what happens when a breakthrough arrives before the heart is prepared to carry it. The financial provision would only make you worry about losing it again. The restored relationship would only make you anxious about when the next argument might start. The new opportunity would simply become a new source of crushing pressure. This is why cultivating a profound, unshakable inner rest that does not depend on outward circumstances is the absolute prerequisite to receiving what I have stored up for you. The stillness you are experiencing right now is not a delay of my promise. It is the vital preparation of your heart. It is the sacred space where I expand your capacity to hold the massive weight of my goodness without being crushed by the anxiety of maintaining it. I am gently drawing you away from the exhausting habit of constant problem solving. You do not have to act as the chief architect of your own deliverance. Instead, I am instructing you to anchor your heart in my promises rather than your present problems. Look at the vast, unbreakable promises I have spoken over your life. I have promised to be your provider, your healer, your defender, and your ultimate vindicator. When the fierce winds of uncertainty begin to howl, those promises are the heavy iron anchors that will keep your ship completely secure. Waiting faithfully is not a passive, defeated surrender to misery. It is a highly active, incredibly courageous choice to trust my character, even when the landscape around you is completely shrouded in fog. You have spent so much energy obsessing over the towering giants, standing in your path, calculating their height, measuring their strength, and terrified of their shadow. Every day, you wake up and mentally rehearse the worst possible outcomes, draining your spirit of the very strength you need to stand firm. But what if you shifted your gaze entirely? What if instead of staring at the problem until it magnified into a mountain, you stared at my face until the problem shrank into a speck of dust? That is the essence of true divine rest. It is the conscious decision to magnify my power instead of magnifying your panic. When you choose to sit quietly at my feet, completely absorbed in the warmth of my unconditional love, the intimidating giants in your life begin to lose their terrifying leverage over your emotions. You begin to realize that the outcome of your situation is not dependent on your fragile human effort, but entirely secured by my sovereign grace. This shift in focus is what breaks the heavy chains of anxiety and allows your soul to finally breathe. I want to challenge you to find profound contentment and absolute safety in my embrace right now, directly in the middle of the storm, rather than putting your life on hold while you wait for the storm to finally pass. The world insists that you can only be happy when the skies are clear and the seas are completely calm. But I am offering you a supernatural joy that defies logic, a joy that dances freely in the pouring rain. Think of a small bird resting securely in the cleft of a massive rock, while a terrifying thunderstorm rages outside. The bird is not frantically trying to stop the wind or command the lightning. It is simply resting completely shielded by the unyielding strength of the rock. I am that rock for you, my child. You do not have to command the storm to cease. You only need to tuck yourself deeply into the safety of my arms and let the winds blow past you. This is the sacred transition you are making today. By embracing this divine rest, you are stepping out of a state of desperate begging and smoothly moving into a beautiful posture of peaceful receiving. You are no longer acting like an orphan pleading for scraps of help from a distant, reluctant deity. You no longer have to perform, strive, or exhaust yourself just to earn my attention or secure my blessing. You are taking your rightful seat at the table as a deeply cherished child of the King, knowing that your Father has already anticipated every single one of your needs. Before a single prayer even forms on your lips, I have already set the perfect solution into motion. Let the reality of that posture sink deeply into your bones. Desperate begging is fueled by the fear that there might not be enough provision, enough grace, or enough time. It is the language of scarcity and panic. But peaceful receiving is the beautiful language of total abundance. It is the quiet confidence that the storehouses of heaven are overflowing, and that I am more than willing to pour them out over your life. As you sit here breathing in the stillness, notice how the frantic tightness in your chest is being entirely replaced by a warm, expansive sense of security. You are learning the delicate art of letting go. You are realizing that you do not have to fight for your own survival because the battle has already been fought and decisively won on your behalf. This profound inner rest is not a fleeting emotion that will vanish the moment you stand up and face the world again. It is a permanent spiritual foundation that we are pouring into the bedrock of your soul today, because you have embraced the vital truth that my peace comes before my miracle. Your heart is now perfectly prepared for the next stage of your spiritual growth. You have stopped demanding to see the finished blueprints, and you have chosen to simply trust the architect. But even as this beautiful rest settles over your spirit, I know the human mind still wrestles with the quiet spaces where nothing appears to be happening on the surface. Now that you are resting in my arms, it is time for me to pull back the curtain and show you exactly what I am doing in the dark, silent seasons, when you feel like you are just waiting. Let us look closely at those quiet, stretching seasons where you feel absolutely nothing is happening on the surface. I know exactly how deeply it hurts to sit in what feels like a stagnant waiting room. You watch the days turn into weeks, and the weeks bleed slowly into months, while your desperate prayers seem to bounce violently off a silent, heavy brass ceiling. You look out the window of your life and watch the seasons change for everyone else. Friends celebrating victories, peers advancing in their careers, family members stepping into new chapters of joy, while your life feels permanently frozen in an endless winter. You have looked around at this severe lack of visible progress and allowed the enemy to convince you that I have simply moved on. You feel spiritually stranded, completely forgotten, in the cold shadows, wondering if your name has slipped from my memory. You feel the sharp daily sting of delay, the heavy ache of unanswered questions, and the rising, suffocating frustration of standing in the exact same place you were a year ago, despite all your exhausting efforts to move forward. It genuinely feels as though I have placed your entire existence on pause, leaving you suspended in a painful, agonizing state of limbo. But I want to fundamentally adjust your spiritual vision right now. I want you to look through the heavy gray veil of your frustration and gaze directly into the brilliant reality of heaven's timeline. What your weary human eyes perceive as a barren wasteland of inactivity is actually the most intensely active construction site of your entire life. You are not stranded. My child, you are stationed. You are not forgotten. You are being meticulously, carefully prepared for something you cannot yet comprehend. Consider the way a master architect designs a towering skyscraper, one that is built to withstand hurricane winds, the violent shifting of the earth, and the unrelenting test of time. The very first phase of that monumental construction looks absolutely nothing like progress. In fact, to the untrained eye, it looks exactly like destruction. For months, heavy machinery digs aggressively downward, tearing up the comfortable dirt, carving out a massive empty crater in the ground. If you were to walk past that site day after day, you would not see a beautiful building rising gloriously toward the clouds. You would only see a dark, deepening hole filled with chaos. You might even wonder if the builders have completely lost their minds, digging violently into the dirt when they are supposed to be reaching for the sky. But the architect knows a vital, unshakable truth that you must learn today. The ultimate height and glory of the building are entirely dependent upon the hidden depth of its foundation. I am the master architect of your life. The beautiful, miraculous future I am building for you is so vast, so heavy with divine blessing and profound purpose, that it requires a deeply excavated foundation in your character. The agonizing silence you have been enduring is simply the sound of me, digging deep into your soul. I am actively clearing out the fragile sand of your old insecurities. I am removing the loose, unstable dirt of your former dependencies. In their place, I am pouring in the solid, unbreakable concrete of unwavering faith. I am not delaying your miracle out of spite. I am actively constructing the structural integrity required to sustain it. If I were to build your massive blessing on the shallow, untested soil of your previous impatience, the moment the violent winds of adversity blew, the entire structure of your life would completely collapse. The weight is your ultimate protection. Think of the tiny, fragile seed that falls from the tree and is pressed into the earth. Once it is completely covered by the heavy, damp soil, it enters a profound season of complete and total obscurity. To that little seed, the darkness feels exactly like a lonely grave. The heavy weight of the dirt presses down relentlessly from every single side, completely blocking out the familiar warmth of the sun and the comforting safety of the light. It is freezing cold. It is entirely isolated, and it feels abandoned by the very tree that gave it life. But that seed is not buried. It is planted. The darkness is not a cruel punishment. It is the absolute necessary incubator for its miraculous transformation. In that hidden, unseen place, far away from the applause, the judgments, and the observation of the world, the hard, protective outer shell of the seed begins to break apart. It is a painful quiet, exhausting shattering. But from that very brokenness, delicate roots begin to push downward, anchoring themselves deeply into the earth, blindly, but instinctively, seeking the water and unseen nutrients required for survival. The seed must establish its heavy anchor in the dark, long before it is ever allowed to produce a vibrant green shoot in the light. You, my beloved child, are that precious seed. You have felt buried beneath the crushing, suffocating weight of your circumstances, surrounded by pitch-black darkness, terrified that you will never see the sun again. But the breaking you are experiencing in this silent season is not your destruction. It is your root system expanding. You are learning to draw your life-sustaining strength directly from me. I want to give you direct, actionable instructions on how to navigate this difficult season of obscurity, so that you do not waste the beauty of the waiting room. First, you must immediately stop measuring my unconditional love for you by the speed of my visible actions. Human beings are deeply obsessed with instant results, demanding that every prayer be answered with the speed of a digital transaction. But my love is not a vending machine, and my divine grace cannot be rushed or hurried by your rising anxiety. I need you to trust my perfect overarching timing with an absolute unbending resolve. I am never early, and I am never, ever late. I arrive precisely when the stage is perfectly set. The second instruction is to recognize that your calm, quiet endurance is the greatest, most profound evidence of your faith. Anyone can loudly sing my praises when their bank account is completely full. Their relationships are effortlessly thriving, and the sun is shining brightly upon their path. But to sit quietly in the dark, heavy soil, completely surrounded by unanswered questions, unresolved pain, and mysterious silence, and still whisper from the bottom of your heart, I trust you. That is the kind of fierce faith that shakes the very gates of heaven. That quiet, resilient endurance is what visibly proves that you have truly embraced the foundational law of my kingdom. My peace comes before my miracle. When you can rest peacefully in the waiting room, without frantically trying to kick down the heavy doors of your future, you are proving to the spiritual realm that the foundation I am pouring inside of you has finally set and cured. You are demonstrating that you desire the giver even more than you desperately desire the gift, which is the highest form of worship. I want this profound truth to permanently transform your daily perception of the waiting period. The enemy has tried so incredibly hard to convince you that this long season of silence is a harsh, vindictive punishment for your past mistakes. He wants you to believe it is a spiritual timeout, designed solely to make you suffer for your earthly failures. But I do not punish my beloved children with purposeful delays. This time of obscurity is a sacred, intensely necessary season of divine preparation and spiritual fortification. Every single tear you have cried in the dark has quietly watered the rich soil of your future. Every single time you bravely chose to get out of bed and face the day, even when your heart was breaking and your physical spirit was utterly exhausted, you were adding another layer of impenetrable steel-like strength to your internal foundation. You are absolutely not the same fragile person you were when this difficult chapter began. The intense heat of this waiting furnace has burned away your superficial dependencies and your fear of what others think, leaving behind a pure, beautifully refined gold of spiritual maturity. You are becoming deeply resilient. You are becoming incredibly wise. You are becoming a fortified vessel strong enough and wide enough to carry the immense glory of the breakthrough that is now rapidly approaching your life. The unseen architecture of your spirit is nearly complete, and the deep roots you have successfully established in the dark are finally strong enough to support the breathtaking harvest I have planned. But to fully step into this glorious new season, there is one final heavy chain that you must deliberately allow me to break. You must be willing to completely sever your painful ties to the frantic artificial clock that the rest of the world is running on. That relentless ticking clock has been the source of so much of your silent agony. From the moment you open your eyes in the morning, the world immediately begins shouting its heavy demands, insisting that you are already hopelessly behind schedule. It tells you that your youth was meant for figuring it all out, that your later years were meant for establishing an unshakable, comfortable foundation, and that if you have not achieved a certain visible level of success by this exact moment, you have somehow failed the ultimate test of life. I see the quiet dread that washes over you with every passing birthday. I see the heavy tears you have shed alone in your car, looking at the calendar and realizing that another full year has slipped through your fingers without the massive sweeping changes you have been desperately begging me to orchestrate. You scroll through endless glowing feeds of other people's carefully curated victories, watching them celebrate the exact milestones that you are still waiting to experience. You see the joyful announcements, the rapid promotions, the smiling family portraits, and the newly purchased homes, and a cold, heavy stone of inadequacy drops instantly into the bottom of your stomach. The world has aggressively trained you to view your beautiful, divinely appointed journey as a vicious competition, a frantic race where there are only a few lucky winners and a massive crowd of forgotten stragglers. This artificial, suffocating timeline breeds a highly toxic anxiety within your soul. It constantly whispers that time is rapidly running out, that your best days are fading into the rearview mirror, and that you have entirely missed your golden window of divine opportunity. But I want to expose this frantic, rushing pace for exactly what it is, a cruel manufactured lie designed entirely to keep your spirit in a permanent state of exhaustion. I am asking you today to intentionally, deliberately unplug your heart from this chaotic system of constant comparison. The modern world demands immediate gratification at every turn. It worships the overnight success, the instant digital fix, and the rapid, effortless ascent to the top of the mountain. Society has taught you to treat the sacred, deeply profound journey of your life like a cheap transaction, expecting massive, life-altering prayers to be answered with the simple push of a button. But the things that are truly eternal, the deep, beautiful blessings that will sustain your spirit and outlast the shifting sands of culture, simply cannot be microwaved. They must be slowly, intentionally, and lovingly cultivated. When you buy into the exhausting rush for immediate gratification, you naturally begin to settle for shallow, fragile substitutes, instead of waiting for the profound, lasting authenticity of my absolute best. You are tempted to force doors open that I have deliberately locked for your own ultimate protection. You are tempted to compromise your deep internal peace just to cross an artificial finish line that society drew in the dirt. Look at the immense, entirely unnecessary pain this rushing has caused you. You have lost countless nights of sleep worrying about arbitrary deadlines that heaven never once recognized. You have heavily and harshly criticized yourself for moving too slowly, completely unaware that I was the one holding you gently in place, shielding you from storms you could not see. The deep emotional pain you feel is not because you are failing. It is because you are trying to measure an eternal spiritual journey using a cheap, broken earthly stopwatch. My kingdom does not operate on a frantic ticking clock. It operates on profound divine intentionality. It breathes to the beautiful, unhurried rhythm of perfect, purposeful seasons. Think about the majestic, towering oak tree standing firmly in the forest. It does not look at the rapidly growing hollow bamboo and feel a sense of crushing shame at its own slow progress. It does not panic in the cold, bitter middle of winter, believing that because its branches are completely bare, it has somehow failed its divine purpose. It simply rests in the quiet cold, sending its roots deeper into the dark soil, knowing with absolute certainty that the warm, life-giving breath of spring is already written into the unbreakable code of its future. I want you to adopt the quiet, magnificent confidence of that tree. Heaven is never in a rush, yet absolutely nothing I desire to accomplish in your life will ever be left undone. When I created the vast, expanding universe, I did not frantically rush through the darkness with a sense of panicked urgency. I spoke with calm authority, and then I intentionally paused to declare that it was good. I want you to discover the sacred, life-saving beauty of the pause. You are completely free to step off the exhausting treadmill of modern expectations. You are absolutely permitted to stop measuring your personal worth by the speed of your visible earthly accomplishments. Your immense value is not determined by how quickly you can achieve a goal. Your value was permanently established the moment I formed you in the quiet, secret places before the foundation of the world was even laid. You must deeply anchor yourself to the core truth we have been establishing together, because it is the ultimate healing antidote to the deadly poison of impatience. My peace comes before my miracle. When you allow the world's false timeline to dictate your emotions, you immediately surrender your peace. You become frantic, irritable, desperate, and overwhelmingly tired. And in that dangerous state of desperation, if you try to force my hand or rush the delicate, complex process of your own deliverance, you only end up severely delaying the promise. Rushing creates a turbulent, highly unstable atmosphere of anxiety, and my miracles are birthed exclusively in an atmosphere of quiet, unwavering trust. Have you ever watched a small child forcefully rip open the tight green petals of a closed rosebud, desperately wanting to see the beautiful flower right this very second? The child's forceful impatience does not accelerate the blooming process. It entirely destroys the blossom. The flower can only reveal its breathtaking beauty when it is allowed to open, according to the gentle, unseen, unhurried rhythm of the sun. You, my beloved child, are that exquisite, closely guarded blossom. Stop trying to tear open the unwritten chapters of your future before they are fully ready to be read. If you forcefully rush the timeline, you will step into a heavy season of blessing that you do not yet have the spiritual maturity or the emotional strength to successfully navigate. The delay is not a denial. It is the grace required to ensure that when the door finally opens, you are fully prepared to walk through it without stumbling. Place your hand over your chest right now. Feel the rapid, anxious rhythm of your heart, a physical manifestation of a soul that has been sprinting aggressively against the wind for years. Now close your eyes and take a long, deep cleansing breath. I want you to consciously, deliberately align your heart rate with the steady, unhurried, magnificent heartbeat of heaven. Breathe in the refreshing wind of my limitless grace. Breathe out the toxic, heavy pressure of societal expectations. Let the crushing weight of comparison completely dissolve into the quiet, sacred atmosphere of this room. You do not need to look nervously to your left or your right to see how far along your friends or your peers are on their individual journeys. Their specific timeline has absolutely nothing to do with yours. The specific, intricate blueprint I have drawn for your life is beautifully unique, tailored perfectly to the specific gifts I have placed inside you, and the exact, specific people I have uniquely called you to reach. What might take someone else a single year to rapidly achieve may take you 5 years of hidden, quiet, profound preparation, simply because the massive weight of the glory you are called to carry requires a much deeper, wider, and stronger foundation. Do not ever despise the slow, steady pace of your current progress. There is immense, unbreakable safety in the slow lane. There is profound, breathtaking intimacy to be found in the quiet, unhurried walk with your Creator. As you finally release these heavy artificial deadlines you have allowed to govern your weary mind, notice the expansive, clear blue sky of freedom that is rapidly expanding directly above you. You are not late. You are not falling behind. You have not missed your window of opportunity, and you have not ruined your future by taking a longer, more winding path than you originally anticipated. You are standing exactly where you need to be, perfectly centered in the absolute safety of my divine schedule. Every single detour, every unexpected delay, and every frustrating closed door has been a masterfully orchestrated step of divine protection and necessary preparation, leading you safely toward a glorious destination, far greater than anything you could have ever imagined or planned for yourself. The world's frantic ticking clock has officially lost its paralyzing power over your spirit today. You are now stepping fully into a beautiful realm of timeless security, insulated completely from the harsh judgments and rushing demands of modern society. Let that deep, profound sense of release wash away the very last remnants of your physical and spiritual exhaustion. The agonizing anxiety of feeling behind is entirely gone, replaced by the comforting absolute truth that your times are securely, permanently held in my loving, capable hands. But as this newly acquired peace settles firmly into the deep soil of your spirit, we must take the precious, fragile remnants of your trust and begin the deliberate, careful work of making them incredibly strong again. Now that you are no longer running in terror from the clock, it is time to turn our full attention to the beautiful, highly necessary task of rebuilding your faith from the ground up, brick by solid brick. I look at the beautiful, battered remnants of your trust. My child, and I see the profound toll this long, painful journey has taken on your spirit. You have spent the last season of your life locked in a purely defensive posture, crouching quietly in the emotional trenches, holding your shield above your head, simply to survive the relentless bombardment of daily struggles. You have been operating in survival mode, waking up every single morning with the sole objective of just making it to nightfall without completely falling apart. I see the deep, spiritual exhaustion in your eyes. You look at the current state of your faith, and it feels as though a massive hurricane has torn through your soul, leaving behind nothing but broken timber and scattered stones. You wonder how you can possibly have enough strength left to believe for a miracle when you barely have enough energy to whisper a simple prayer. But I want to show you something profoundly beautiful about the ruins you are staring at today. In my kingdom, brokenness is never the end of the story. It is simply the clearing of the ground. The rubble you see is not evidence of your permanent defeat. It is the raw, highly necessary material I am going to use to rebuild your spiritual foundation, making it far stronger, far deeper, and infinitely more resilient than it ever was before. Today, we are shifting your spirit from a posture of fearful defense into a glorious, unwavering posture of spiritual strength. You are no longer just a survivor clinging desperately to a piece of driftwood in the middle of a raging ocean. You are a beloved child of the Most High, and it is time for you to stand up, plant your feet firmly on the solid rock of my truth, and begin to actively build. Rebuilding your faith does not require a sudden massive explosion of emotional energy, nor does it demand a flawless, instantly perfect performance. It happens exactly the way any great impenetrable fortress is built slowly, intentionally, and deliberately, laying one solid brick at a time. The first and most critical brick we must lay down today is the powerful, unshakable memory of my past faithfulness. I want you to actively, intentionally look back over the landscape of your life. Do not look at the mistakes, and do not look at the detours. I want you to focus entirely on the massive, terrifying storms that you absolutely swore would destroy you. Remember the heartbreaking seasons when you felt completely buried under the weight of financial hardship, or the times you were swallowed by a suffocating cloud of grief? Look closely at those dark, agonizing chapters, and recognize the profound, undeniable truth shining out from them. You survived. You made it through the longest nights of your life, and you did not survive those impossible moments because of your own limited wisdom, or because you somehow perfectly navigated the crisis on your own strength. You survived because I was standing directly inside the fire with you, shielding you from the devastating heat. I was the invisible hand holding your head above the water when you had completely lost the physical and emotional strength to swim. Your personal history is a breathtaking, undeniable record of my constant rescue and my unyielding protection. I need you to take that history, that undeniable proof of my unconditional love, and use it as the heavy mortar to secure the foundation of your future. If I did not abandon you in your darkest yesterday, I will certainly not abandon you in your challenging today, and I will absolutely never forsake you in your unknown tomorrow. When the whispering winds of uncertainty try to convince you that this time is different, that this time you will surely fall, I want you to point directly to the monuments of grace I have already erected in your life. Use your past victories as a fierce defensive shield against your present fears. This is the very essence of true biblical perseverance. Perseverance is not a passive, miserable endurance where you simply grit your teeth and wait to be crushed by the weight of the world. It is an active, fiercely courageous stance. It is the bold, unbending decision to look directly at a seemingly impossible obstacle and declare that the God who parted the raging seas in your past is the exact same God standing faithfully beside you in your present. As we place these heavy, solid bricks of remembrance into the foundation of your heart, I want you to feel a quiet but incredibly fierce determination beginning to ignite within your spirit. The exhaustion of your lost faith is being entirely consumed by a rising tide of fresh, holy fire. I am replacing your lingering feelings of weakness and vulnerability with a deep, profound sense of spiritual maturity and battle-tested readiness. You're beginning to realize that the intense, painful pressure you have endured was not designed to break you, but to forge you into a weapon of light, capable of piercing through the thickest darkness. I want you to stand firm when the aggressive winds of uncertainty begin to blow against the walls of your mind. Let the wind howl. Let the circumstances swirl in complete chaos around you. Your foundation is no longer built upon the shifting, unpredictable sand of human timelines or the fragile, temporary comfort of immediate gratification. Your life is now permanently anchored to the unmoving bedrock of my eternal character, a character that is permanently defined by perfect love, endless grace, and absolute sovereignty. You are entirely secure, completely shielded by the very hands that shape the universe, and nothing can uproot you from this place of divine safety. You must remember the unbreakable foundational rule we have been weaving into your spirit from the very beginning. My peace comes before my miracle. This truth is the ultimate indestructible anchor of your fortified faith. The world expects you to demonstrate your faith only in the loud, celebratory moments of visible victory when the battle has already been decisively won and the spoils are being handed out. But that is not where true, unshakable faith is built. A fortified, impenetrable trust is forged in the quiet, unseen, agonizing moments of the waiting room. It is built in the midnight hours when the tears are falling. The answers are entirely hidden, and yet you still choose to lift your weary hands and say, I trust you. It is incredibly easy to praise me when the sun is shining brightly on your face and your hands are full of abundant blessings. but when you can find the profound courage to rest deeply in my peace, while the storm is still actively raging around you, you step into a level of spiritual maturity that the enemy absolutely cannot touch. Your calm, steady endurance becomes an impenetrable shield. By choosing my peace long before the external breakthrough arrives, you are violently disarming the fear of failure that has haunted your weary steps for decades. I want you to feel the massive structural shift that has just taken place within your soul today. The fragile, exhausted remnants of your former trust have been completely replaced by a towering, fortified structure of unshakable confidence. You are no longer living as a victim of your circumstances. You are stepping forward as a deeply loved, fiercely protected, and fully equipped child of the King. You have successfully weathered the long, brutal storm, and instead of leaving you broken, it has left you incredibly strong. Your spiritual muscles, once tired and trembling, are now fully engaged and vibrating with divine, heavenly energy. You are completely ready for what is coming next, but having a remarkably strong foundation is only the beginning of this incredible journey we are on. A foundation is not meant to simply be admired in the silence. It is meant to be boldly walked upon. Now that your footing is absolutely secure and your heart is fiercely anchored in my peace, I'm going to ask you to do something that requires immense bravery. I'm going to ask you to step completely out of your comfort zone, leave the safety of the visible shoreline, and follow my voice directly into the dark. I know exactly how your heart races at the very thought of leaving the visible shoreline. You have spent much time securing your spiritual foundation and finding a place of quiet strength. But true faith was never meant to remain stationary. Now that your feet are planted firmly on the solid rock of my truth, the natural next step in your spiritual journey is incredibly daunting. I am asking you to walk forward where your human eyes can no longer see the path. I understand the profound vulnerability you feel right now. Stepping into the absolute unknown without a detailed map or a guaranteed timeline feels terrifying to your earthly mind. You are standing at the very edge of the light, peering into a heavy, thick darkness. And every natural instinct within you is screaming to turn back to the familiar safety of what you can control. But the familiar safety you are clinging to is exactly what has kept your spirit completely paralyzed. You have allowed the fear of failure to convince you that the dark is filled with hidden traps and inevitable disaster. I am here to completely dismantle that fear and give you the fierce, undeniable courage to walk boldly into the unseen. Your deepest frustration often comes from a desperate, agonizing desire to see the entire staircase before you are willing to take a single step. You pray endlessly for a sweeping, panoramic view of your future. You want me to hand you a highly detailed blueprint, showing every twist, every turn, and how every relationship will be perfectly resolved. You believe that if you could just see the final destination, you would finally have the courage to move. But that is not how walking by faith operates. If I were to suddenly pull back the curtain and show you the massive, breathtaking entirety of what I have called you to do, the sheer magnitude of the assignment would completely overwhelm your current capacity. You would immediately look at your own limited resources, your own earthly weaknesses, and the towering obstacles in the distance, and you would completely convince yourself that it is impossible. You would run in the opposite direction by keeping the distant future entirely obscured. I am not trying to punish you, and I am not ignoring your desperate prayers for clarity. I am actively protecting you from the heavy, crushing weight of tomorrow. I am asking you to trade your desperate demand for total certainty for a profound, intimate reliance entirely on my guidance. Consider the ancient wisdom that declares, "My word is a lamp unto your feet and a light unto your path." A small handheld lamp does not act like a massive spotlight illuminating the entire forest from beginning to end. It provides only a small warm circle of illumination, just enough light to safely reveal the very next step in front of you. When you take that step, the light moves with you, revealing the next piece of solid ground, and then the next. This is a deliberate, beautiful design. Walking by faith is a continuous rhythm of daily dependence on my voice. If you had the entire map, you would no longer need the guide. You would simply take the directions and attempt to march forward in your own exhausted strength, which is precisely what led to your deepest emotional pain in the first place. I want to keep you incredibly close to my side. When you can only see one step ahead, you are forced to lean heavily against my shoulder, listening intently to the gentle cadence of my breath and matching your stride perfectly with mine. The profound vulnerability of not knowing the future is the exact mechanism I use to draw you into the deepest, most intimate relationship with your Creator. I am giving you a very direct instruction right now. My child, you must take the very next step. Do not worry about step 5 or step 10 or step 100. I am only asking you to bravely execute the single simple act of obedience that I have placed directly in front of you today. That step may seem incredibly small to the outside world, but I know the immense strength it requires of you. Your next step might simply be making that difficult phone call to ask for forgiveness or submitting that application, despite the crippling fear of rejection. It might mean getting out of bed and choosing to praise me while your heart is still actively breaking. Whatever that specific quiet prompting is within your spirit, I need you to move forward. The enemy wants you to remain frozen in a state of endless panicked analysis, weighing every possible disastrous outcome until you are too terrified to move. He uses your desire for perfection to breed a debilitating paralysis. But true, biblical obedience does not wait for a complete lack of fear. It moves forward in the face of fear, heavily armed with the absolute certainty of my unconditional love. You must tightly hold on to the continuous, unbending refrain we have been weaving into your soul. My peace comes before my miracle. Up until this moment, you have been viewing this truth purely as a posture of waiting. But now you must understand how this profound truth applies to your physical and spiritual movement. You do not wait until the miracle drops perfectly into your lap before you start walking. You step forward in peace, and you will find that the miracle is often actively hidden inside the very act of your obedience. The Israelites had to physically step into the raging waters of the Jordan River before they parted to reveal dry ground. If they had stubbornly stood on the muddy banks, refusing to get their feet wet until the miracle was completely visible, they would have never entered the promised land. Your breakthrough is directly attached to your willingness to walk without seeing the physical proof of my provision. By stepping confidently into the dark, armed with nothing but the quiet, unshakable peace I have given you, you are actively participating in the creation of your own miracle. The calm, steady rhythm of your obedient footsteps is the loudest, most glorious sound of worship in all of heaven. I want to completely reframe how you view the unknown. For far too long, you have treated the dark as a terrifying, empty void, a space designed entirely to harbor your worst nightmares and hide your greatest failures. You have viewed the obscurity of your future as a dangerous, hostile environment. But in my kingdom, the darkness is merely the vast, breathtaking canvas I use to display the absolute brilliance of my light. Stars cannot be admired in the blinding glare of the midday sun. Their intricate, piercing beauty can only be truly witnessed against the pitch-black backdrop of the midnight sky. The same is true for the miraculous interventions I am preparing for your life. The situations that look the absolute darkest are precisely the environments where my glory shines the brightest. When you stop fighting the dark and instead recognize it as the sacred space where my light does its most profound work, your paralyzing fear will instantly evaporate. You are not wandering aimlessly through a dangerous forest completely alone and vulnerable. You are being personally escorted by the King of Kings through a beautifully orchestrated season of transition. Every unseen obstacle is being cleared away by my hand. Feel the powerful, undeniable surge of brave resolve rising up from the deepest core of your spirit right now. The heavy terror of the unknown has been entirely broken off your mind. The intense need to have all the answers neatly arranged has dissolved into a fierce trust in my unchanging character. You are no longer intimidated by the shadows because you intimately know the Creator of the light. Your emotional state is shifting rapidly. The lingering remnants of your defensive, hesitant survival mode are being replaced by an incredibly bold, courageous readiness to advance. You are fully prepared to follow my voice wherever it leads, whether it calls you to climb a steep mountain or walk quietly through a hidden valley. You have embraced the profound truth that your safety is not found in a clear, highly visible path, but entirely in the unshakable presence of your guide. With your foundation secure and your courage fully restored, you are ready to move. But as you begin to boldly step forward into this dark, miraculous space, there is a profound internal alignment that must take place to ensure you do not lose your way. We must now turn our full attention to tuning your spiritual hearing, ensuring that your heart remains permanently locked onto my heavenly frequency as the journey truly begins. To walk safely in this dark, miraculous space, you must learn to precisely recognize the exact frequency of my voice. Imagine for a moment that your mind is a delicate, highly sensitive receiver, capable of picking up countless signals from the atmosphere around you. Right now, the world is transmitting a constant, overwhelming broadcast of fear, urgent demands, and frantic comparison. This worldly static is incredibly loud, specifically designed by the enemy to scramble the clear, comforting signal of my truth. It fills the empty spaces of your day with a thick, heavy noise, constantly whispering that you need to worry about tomorrow, that you are entirely unprotected, and that your current circumstances are completely hopeless. You feel this static most intensely in the quiet hours of the night, when the house is still. Yet your mind is racing at a terrifying speed, attempting to solve problems that have not even happened yet. If you leave your spiritual dial untouched, your weary mind will naturally absorb this chaotic static, allowing it to dictate your emotional state and drain the very last reserves of your spiritual energy. But I'm going to show you how to reach out in the dark and deliberately turn the dial. I want to teach you how to permanently tune your spirit to my heavenly frequency, completely ignoring the toxic, chaotic static of the world around you. This profound internal shift is the absolute prerequisite to fully receiving the breathtaking blessings I have prepared for you. You cannot properly hear my detailed instructions for your future if you are constantly listening to the world's terrifying predictions about your failure. Tuning your heart to my frequency requires a highly intentional, deliberate replacement of your worldly distractions with a crystal clear, heavenly perspective. I see how easily your attention is pulled away by the glowing screens, the endless news cycles, and the heavy, unsolicited opinions of other people. You have been conditioned to believe that staying constantly connected to the world's panic is a form of responsibility. You think that if you just gather enough bad news, you can somehow shield yourself from the impact. But these worldly distractions are not just harmless entertainment or useful information. They are active, aggressive thieves, stealing the sacred quiet you desperately need to cultivate a profound sense of spiritual clarity and intimate connection with me. When you wake up in the morning, before you allow the world to shout its heavy demands into your mind, I want you to intentionally tune your spirit to my voice. Begin your day by listening for the gentle, steady rhythm of my grace, rather than the frantic, rushing alarm of society's expectations. I am calling you to elevate your thoughts far above your current temporary circumstances. The dark valley you are walking through right now is incredibly real, and the pain you feel is entirely valid. But this valley is not your permanent residence. It is merely a temporary passage. When you keep your mind stayed on me, entirely focused on my unchanging character and my limitless power, I will keep you in perfect, unshakable peace. This is not a matter of simply pretending the storm does not exist, nor is it a blind, foolish denial of the massive obstacles standing in your way. It is a profound, courageous realization that the Creator of the universe is infinitely greater than any storm you will ever face. When you look at your massive financial struggles, your deep loneliness, or your lingering health anxieties through the lens of earthly logic, they appear entirely insurmountable. You feel trapped inside a maze that has no exit. But when you elevate your perspective and look at those exact same struggles through the flawless, brilliant lens of heaven, they instantly shrink into minor temporary shadows that my light has already overcome. From my vantage point, the walls of your maze are incredibly low, and I can clearly see the beautiful open expanse of freedom waiting just a few steps ahead of you. You must fiercely guard the gates of your mind, refusing to grant entry to the lingering anxieties that attempt to pull you back into the heavy, suffocating atmosphere of panic. Whenever a thought arises that produces terror, confusion, or a desperate sense of isolation, you must immediately recognize that it is broadcasting on the wrong frequency. I do not speak the language of fear. I do not transmit messages of hopelessness. My voice always brings a deep, refreshing current of hope, a profound sense of safety, and an undeniable reminder of your immense eternal value. By actively choosing to reject the static and intentionally locking your focus onto my promises, you are building an impenetrable fortress around your heart. You are declaring to the spiritual realm that your emotional stability is no longer dependent on the unpredictable, shifting circumstances of the world, but is permanently anchored in the steadfast, unchanging reality of heaven. This divine connection is what will sustain you when the path ahead seems long and the night feels incredibly dark. It requires daily discipline. It requires you to gently but firmly redirect your mind back to my goodness every single time it tries to wander back into the barren wasteland of worry. Let us dive even deeper into the foundational principle that we have established together, because it reaches its absolute culmination in this place of total alignment. My peace comes before my miracle. Up until this moment, you have understood this truth as a necessary posture of waiting and as the courageous rhythm of your obedient footsteps. But now you must see that total, uninterrupted alignment with my will naturally produces the exact specific atmosphere where miracles can effortlessly flourish. Think of the most delicate, exquisite flower in existence. It cannot be forced to bloom by aggressively pulling on its petals, nor can it thrive in an environment filled with toxic, polluted air. Miracles do not grow in the toxic, highly acidic soil of frantic worry. They cannot take root in a heart that is completely choked by the heavy vines of worldly distraction. Breakthroughs are birthed exclusively in the rich, quiet, deeply saturated atmosphere of divine alignment and unwavering trust. When your heart is perfectly synchronized with my heavenly frequency, there is absolutely no resistance left within you to block the massive flow of my grace. You are no longer fighting against my timing, questioning my methods, or desperately trying to force your own desired outcomes. You are simply resting in a state of elevated intentional stillness, perfectly positioned to receive the incredible abundance I am about to pour out over your life. Feel the massive, profound emotional pivot taking place within the deepest core of your spirit right now. The exhausting, frantic worry that drove you to the edge of despair at the beginning of this journey has been entirely eradicated, completely burned away by the consuming fire of my unconditional love. The chaotic noise of the world, which once held such paralyzing power over your daily decisions, has faded into a distant, completely irrelevant hum. In its place, a beautiful, sacred silence has settled over your mind, a silence that is filled entirely with the warm, vibrant living presence of your Creator. You have successfully replaced the paralyzing fear of failure with a soaring, victorious expectation of my goodness. You are no longer desperately grasping for immediate temporary solutions. You are deeply, intimately connected to the eternal source of all life. Your spiritual hearing is now incredibly sharp, perfectly attuned to the subtle, gentle whispers of my spirit, ready to catch even the slightest shift in the wind of my direction. You are no longer a hostage to your racing thoughts. You are the master of your internal atmosphere, commanding the storms within your mind to completely cease in my name. This state of elevated intentional stillness is the highest form of spiritual maturity. It is the breathtaking realization that you do not need to strive, panic, or manipulate the world around you in order to be completely safe. You are held firmly in the hollow of my hand, and your future is more secure than the very foundations of the earth. The profound sense of spiritual clarity you are experiencing right now is not a fleeting temporary emotion. It is a permanent upgrade to your spiritual vision. As you breathe in this perfect, unshakable peace, your entire being is becoming completely primed for the glorious breakthrough that is now hovering just on the horizon. about to rapidly unfold into your visible reality. Your heart is fully aligned. Your frequency is perfectly locked onto heaven. But before I pull back the final curtain and reveal the breathtaking manifestation of my promises, I want you to pause and look closely at the stunning masterpiece that has already been created inside of you. While you were entirely focused on the painful delay of the external miracle, a far more magnificent transformation has been quietly taking place in the hidden depths of your soul, turning the very agony of your waiting room into the most beautiful sacred chapter of your entire life. I want you to look back at this waiting room, this quiet, secluded space where you have spent so many agonizing months and weary years. When you first entered this difficult season, you naturally viewed the waiting as a harsh, unyielding punishment. You felt completely forgotten by heaven, pacing the worn floor of your circumstances, staring endlessly at locked doors, and begging me through hot tears to hurry up and change your external reality. You thought that if I truly loved you, I would have instantly removed the discomfort and handed you the keys to your promised land. But as we stand here together now, surrounded by the quiet peace you have fought so hard to obtain, I want you to see this sacred space for what it truly is. It has never been a cold, lonely prison, my child. It has been a magnificent, deeply intentional workshop. Those long, painfully silent stretches where you felt absolutely nothing was happening, where you honestly thought your prayers were simply bouncing off a heavy brass ceiling. Those were the vital, hidden moments of your greatest spiritual excavation. The quiet pauses you have recently learned to embrace, those intentional minutes of stillness, where you stopped demanding immediate answers and simply rested in. My presence have acted as a precise divine chisel upon your heart. This silence was never an empty void. It was a profoundly active, deeply transformative force. I was working meticulously in the absolute darkest depths of your soul, carefully carving away the fragile worldly dependencies and deeply ingrained fears that would have eventually collapsed under the massive weight of your future calling. You see, the world constantly celebrates the sudden explosive moments of visible success. But heaven pauses to deeply rejoice over the slow, hidden, agonizing work of becoming. Think about the intense, crushing weight of the uncertainty you have bravely carried for so long. There were long, solitary nights when the immense pressure of not knowing how things would ultimately work out felt so overwhelmingly heavy on your chest that you could barely draw a full breath. You asked me repeatedly in your most vulnerable moments of despair why the pain had to be so incredibly severe, why the trial had to last so agonizingly long, and why the refining fire had to burn so fiercely around your life. You wondered in the quiet whispers of your doubt if you had done something terribly wrong to deserve such immense, suffocating pressure. But I want you to fully understand the beautiful, unfailing physics of my heavenly kingdom. That heavy, terrifying pressure of the unknown was never for a single second designed to crush your fragile spirit. It was the exact, masterfully calculated amount of pressure required to produce brilliant, unbreakable spiritual diamonds. Exquisite diamonds simply cannot be formed in comfortable, shallow soil on a sunny afternoon. They require incredible dark depths, intense, searing heat, and absolute relentless pressure over time. The agonizing daily struggles that you swore were going to completely destroy you were actually forging an unshakable, brilliant resilience deep inside of your character. I want to permanently shift your heart today from a defensive posture of merely surviving this journey to a profound, heartfelt gratitude for the journey itself. If I had answered your desperate prayers the exact moment you first cried out, you would have received a fleeting temporary relief, but you would have completely missed this magnificent permanent transformation. You would have remained fragile, easily broken by the next storm. But now, through the pressure, you are entirely unbreakable. I want you to take a very close, deeply honest and loving look at how much you have truly grown during this unseen season. Compare the exhausted, terrified person you were at the very beginning of this fiery trial to the remarkably strong, steadfast person standing here intimately with me right now. When the furious storm first hit your life, your immediate human reaction was sheer, unadulterated panic. You were instantly terrified, scrambling frantically to find a quick human solution to what was always meant to be a divine intervention. You unconsciously allowed fear to dictate your sleep, to poison your conversations, and to strain your closest relationships. But look closely at the stunning, quiet strength radiating from your spirit today. The frantic, desperate pacing that once defined your days has been entirely replaced by a calm, steady, unshakable patience. The overwhelming, paralyzing fear of failure has been completely swallowed up by a fierce, courageous faith that refuses to back down. When the harsh winds of uncertainty blow against your life now, you no longer crumble in defeat. You instinctively bend your knees, lift your hands, and anchor your weary soul deep into the bedrock of my promises. You have learned the rare, beautiful art of how to worship me in the pitch black. You have learned how to boldly speak life over the dry, barren bones of your circumstances, and how to find profound, genuine joy even when your hands appear to be completely empty. This is not just a minor temporary adjustment in your daily attitude, my child. This is a total miraculous resurrection of your inner being. You have successfully traded the fragile, anxious heart of a fearful orphan for the fierce, confident, resting heart of a royal heir. This monumental, undeniable shift within your character brings us directly back to the ultimate foundational truth that has safely carried you through this entire grueling process. My peace comes before my miracle. You have spent almost this entire season desperately looking out the window of your soul, anxiously scanning the distant horizon for the sudden external breakthrough. You were entirely convinced that the real life-changing miracle was going to be the sudden financial provision, the dramatic physical healing, or the sudden perfect restoration of a broken relationship. You truly believed that my divine peace would finally arrive the moment your visible circumstances changed. But I want to reveal a breathtaking sacred secret to you today. The greatest, most astounding miracle I could ever possibly perform in your life has already happened, and it did not happen to your external circumstances. It happened directly inside the secret architecture of your own heart. Your newfound ability to stand squarely in the middle of a massive unresolved crisis and genuinely smile, your incredible capacity to feel a deep, unshakable peace while the external storm is still violently raging around you. That is the ultimate, undeniable miracle. You have literally become the living, breathing, walking evidence of my sustaining grace. The profound internal transformation of your mind and spirit is the true eternal masterpiece. The external breakthrough you have been so desperately waiting for is merely the secondary earthly byproduct of exactly who you have now become. By completely surrendering to the painful process, by allowing my peace to completely saturate your spirit long before the physical answer arrived, you have unlocked the absolute highest level of spiritual maturity. Because you have allowed this sacred hidden transformation to run its full, complete course within you, your entire spiritual atmosphere has completely, permanently changed. The heavy, lingering remnants of physical exhaustion, the sharp sting of old bitterness, and the dark shadows of lingering doubt have been permanently swept away by my wind. They are leaving behind a brilliant, rapidly expanding sky of pure, unadulterated heavenly joy in your mind. I want you to let that deep welling joy completely rise up and overflow within you right now. It is a profound, mysterious joy that is completely unattached to what you currently possess, what you have lost, or what the loud, frantic world says about your current status. It is the solid, unshakable joy of knowing with absolute certainty that you have been severely tested by the hottest fire, and you have come out as pure, refined gold. You are no longer a fearful victim, desperately waiting for a hasty rescue. You are a fully equipped, heavily armored warrior, confidently waiting for your divine deployment. I look at your beautiful heart today, perfectly tuned to my heavenly frequency, fiercely anchored in my unchanging peace, and beautifully forged under the immense pressure of the waiting room. And I see a holy vessel that is finally strong enough to carry the immense, breathtaking weight of my glory. You are entirely, completely ready. The deep, painful, hidden work in the dark, silent soil of your waiting room is officially complete. You have successfully, beautifully passed the supreme test of the unseen. And because your internal foundation is now completely unbreakable, you are perfectly securely prepared to handle the massive, visible external breakthrough that is now rapidly, forcefully approaching your life. The heavy, suffocating fog of confusion that has blanketed your mind for so many years is officially lifting today. You can feel the atmosphere shifting rapidly around you, a sudden and undeniable change in the spiritual climate. For so long, you have walked through a thick, disorienting haze, desperately waving your hands in front of your face, trying to find a single recognizable landmark. You constantly second-guessed every decision, terrified that one wrong move would plunge you entirely off a hidden cliff. But now, the brilliant, piercing light of my truth is actively burning away that dense fog. I want you to open your spiritual eyes and look directly at the landscape of your life. The blurry outlines of your future are coming into sharp, unmistakable focus. The agonizing season of wandering, of questioning your purpose, and of feeling as though you were wandering aimlessly through a barren wilderness has come to a definitive, glorious end. You are crossing a profound threshold in this very moment. The long, brutal winter of your uncertainty is over, and you are stepping fully into the brilliant, roaring daylight of my direct divine clarity. I want you to know, with absolute, unshakable certainty, that I heard every single prayer you whispered in the dark. I was listening closely on those exhausted nights, when your voice was barely a broken tremble, when you were too tired to form complete sentences, and your heart could only communicate through heavy, silent tears. You believed in your deepest moments of isolation that your desperate pleas were evaporating into a cold, empty ceiling. But not a single word was ever lost. I collected every tear I recorded, every agonizing question, and I held every unspoken fear tightly within my hands. I saw you crying out for specific guidance, begging me to just give you a clear sign, a simple direction, an undeniable yes or no. You thought my silence was a sign of distance, but my silence was simply the holy space being cleared to deliver an answer so profound, so detailed, and so perfectly timed that it would forever change the trajectory of your life. The intentional silence you have bravely endured has successfully unlocked the very vaults of heaven. Listen to my voice right now. The time for guessing is entirely over. I am speaking directly to the core of your specific situation, cutting through all the lingering static and delivering the exact sharp instructions you have been so desperately seeking. That massive, intimidating obstacle standing directly in your path, the one that has caused you countless nights of intense, paralyzing anxiety, is no longer a barrier. I am giving you the precise strategy to dismantle it. The confusing relationships, the uncertain financial paths, the terrifying health questions, I am flooding those specific areas with absolute, undeniable light. The path forward is no longer a mystery hidden in the shadows. I am charting the course right before your eyes. You will know exactly when to move, exactly where to step, and exactly what to say, because my spirit will be the constant, undeniable compass perfectly guiding your every single action. Feel the sudden, overwhelming rush of divine energy flowing directly into your weary bones. This is not the fragile, temporary motivation of the world, which completely evaporates the moment a new challenge arises. This is the fierce, indestructible roaring power of the Holy Spirit, actively filling the newly expanded capacity of your soul. The heavy, debilitating exhaustion that you have carried on your shoulders for years is completely breaking off of you right now. Stand up tall, my beloved child. You are shedding the absolute last, lingering remnants of the fear of failure. That toxic fear used to whisper that you were not smart enough, not strong enough, or not holy enough to receive my ultimate best. It tried to convince you that this massive breakthrough was meant for someone else, someone more qualified or less broken. But as my divine clarity washes over your mind, that fear is instantly reduced to ashes. You can finally see yourself exactly as I see you, entirely capable, fiercely loved, and perfectly positioned for victory. We must loudly and triumphantly declare the ultimate foundational rule that has served as the unbreakable anchor of your entire journey. My peace comes before my miracle. I told you that the miracle could not fully bloom until the chaotic soil of your heart was completely stilled. I asked you to do the impossible, to find perfect rest in the middle of a raging storm, to worship me deeply while your hands were still completely empty, and to align your internal frequency with the unhurried heartbeat of heaven. You have beautifully, courageously fulfilled that sacred requirement. You chose to trust my character when you could not see my hand. You anchored yourself deeply in my peace long before the physical evidence of your rescue ever appeared. And because you have successfully embraced that profound truth I am declaring over your life right now, the time for the miraculous has officially arrived. The massive, heavy doors of heaven are swinging wide open, and the breakthrough you have been waiting for is pouring into your reality with undeniable force. This is the climactic moment where everything changes. You are not going to experience a slow, subtle shift. You are stepping into a powerful, overwhelming crescendo of divine intervention. The provisions, the restorations, and the impossible solutions that have been meticulously prepared in the unseen realm are now violently breaking through the surface of your daily life. You are going to look in absolute awe at how effortlessly I arrange the pieces that you spent years frantically trying to force together. The connections that previously felt blocked will suddenly open wide. The resources that seemed entirely inaccessible will freely flow directly into your hands. I am actively moving on your behalf, completely orchestrating the physical world to perfectly match the internal victory you have already won in the spirit. Breathe in this profound, overwhelming sense of relief. Let it wash deeply over every single corner of your mind. The agonizing pressure to figure it all out on your own has been completely removed. You do not have to fight this battle in your own fragile strength anymore, because I have already decisively won it for you. The deep awe you are feeling right now is the natural, beautiful response of a human soul encountering the raw, unfiltered majesty of its creator. You are looking at the undeniable proof of my active presence in your life. I am not a distant, passive observer sitting far away on a silent throne. I am the God who actively steps down directly into the muddy, chaotic trenches of your reality, grabs you by the hand, and forcefully pulls you out of the heavy darkness and into the glorious, brilliant light. As you step forward into this newly illuminated reality, recognize how this divine clarity will completely transform every single aspect of your daily existence. The paralyzing indecision that once kept you awake until dawn is replaced by a sharp, unbending confidence in my sovereign timing. You are going to start making bold, courageous decisions without hesitation, because you will vividly hear my voice whispering directly behind you, saying, "This is the way. Walk in it." The heavy, suffocating anxiety of the unknown has lost its grip permanently. You are no longer navigating by the fragile, limited light of your own earthly understanding. You are entirely enveloped in the blinding, perfect light of my eternal promises. Every step you take from this moment forward is backed by the limitless, roaring authority of heaven itself. This is your victorious moment. Do not shrink back from it, and do not try to minimize the magnitude of what I am doing out of a false sense of humility. I want you to boldly, confidently step into this profound clarity and take immediate, decisive ownership of the blessings I am releasing. Your intentional, agonizingly painful silence was never in vain. It was the exact key required to unlock the direct, unmistakable answers from heaven that you are holding in your spirit right now. The deep, unshakable certainty you feel in your chest is the ultimate confirmation that you have successfully navigated the wilderness. You have survived the fire, you have weathered the flood, and you have emerged entirely transformed. The long, silent waiting room has officially closed its doors behind you. You are now standing on the sacred holy ground of fulfilled promises, ready to embrace the magnificent, tangible reality of my extravagant love. Look around you, my child, as the first brilliant rays of dawn finally begin to stretch across the vast, expectant horizon of your life. You have stood faithfully in the chilling pitch black for so incredibly long, shivering against the bitter winds of uncertainty, wondering if the sun would ever rise again. But the night is completely over. The long, terrifying shadows that once dictated your every movement are now rapidly retreating, permanently banished by the undeniable roaring light of my active presence. I want you to open your eyes wide and witness the breathtaking manifestation of the promises I whispered to you in the dark. This is not an illusion, and this is not a temporary reprieve. The magnificent unseen architecture that we have been quietly building inside your spirit is now violently breaking ground into your visible reality. Every single tear you shed, every agonizing moment of waiting, and every quiet, desperate prayer has been meticulously gathered and forged into the glorious reality that is unfolding right before your eyes. I want you to feel the soaring, undeniable sense of hope completely saturating your chest right now. For years you have carried a heavy, crushing stone of disappointment, a constant nagging fear that you were somehow forgotten or overlooked by heaven. But today, I am rolling that stone away. I am completely removing the heavy garments of mourning that you have worn for so long, and I am actively wrapping you in the brilliant, festive robes of triumphant joy. The deep, agonizing pain of your past is no longer the defining narrative of your life. It has simply become the dark, contrasting background that makes the vibrant colors of this current miracle so incredibly breathtaking. You are being completely vindicated today. Those who watched you struggle, and even the dark voices in your own mind that loudly predicted your ultimate failure, are now being completely silenced by the undeniable majestic display of my favor over your life. As this profound, visible miracle begins to rapidly take shape around you, I want you to remember exactly how this victory was secured. Do not ever forget the sacred, unyielding truth that has been the anchor of your entire journey. My peace comes before my miracle. This beautiful harvest of blessings you are stepping into did not magically appear because you figured out the perfect human strategy or finally worked hard enough. It was beautifully birthed directly from the quiet, agonizing trust you cultivated when your hands were entirely empty. Because you chose to fiercely embrace my peace. While the storm was still raging, the soil of your heart was perfectly prepared to receive this massive, unprecedented downpour of grace. You passed the ultimate test of faith, proving that your profound love for me was far greater than your desperate desire for immediate relief. Look closely at the specific, intricate ways my hand is now moving to completely resolve your deepest emotional pain. The massive, towering obstacles that once seemed entirely insurmountable, the financial mountains, the complicated relational walls, the terrifying health diagnoses are crumbling to dust right before your eyes. I am actively clearing the path, making the crooked places straight and the rough places incredibly smooth. You are going to watch with absolute awe as doors that have been stubbornly locked for decades swing wide open with a simple, effortless touch of my breath. I am strategically placing the right people in your path at the exact right moment, seamlessly orchestrating connections and opportunities that you could never have possibly arranged on your own. The heavy, exhausting burden of constantly trying to manipulate your own outcomes is entirely gone. You are now simply walking in the incredibly light, refreshing atmosphere of divine favor. Think of the long, brutal winter you have just survived. The ground of your life felt completely frozen hard and entirely unyielding. The trees were bare, and the landscape of your dreams looked desolate and lifeless. You wondered if the warm, life-giving breath of spring would ever return to your soul. But feel the profound, gentle warmth radiating from heaven today. I am sending a rapid, overwhelming thaw to the frozen, dormant places of your heart. Look at the new, vibrant life, aggressively pushing its way up through the previously barren soil. The creative passions you thought had withered away and died are suddenly bursting with fresh, vibrant color. The deep, meaningful relationships that felt cold and distant are being powerfully restored and infused with an entirely new, supernatural warmth. The divine purpose I planted inside you is no longer sleeping under a heavy blanket of snow. It is awake, thriving, and violently blooming under the direct, nourishing light of my extravagant love. I want to speak directly to the areas of your life that have looked like a valley of dry, scattered bones. For a very long time, you have walked through the remnants of shattered dreams and broken promises. You looked at the profound devastation, the failed business, the completely fractured family, the deeply wounded heart, and you asked me in absolute despair if these dry bones could ever possibly live again. You had completely given up hope on certain areas of your life, permanently burying them in the cold graveyard of your past. But listen to the sound of my roaring wind sweeping through your valley right now. I am prophesying life directly over your dead circumstances. I am actively commanding the bones to come together, attaching fresh sinew and muscle and breathing my very own indestructible breath into the things you had completely written off as impossible. What was dead is now standing up as a vast, powerful, breathing army of restored promise. This is the undeniable, magnificent power of your Creator. I am the God of the ultimate, breathtaking turnaround. I do not just slowly repair the broken pieces of your life. I completely resurrect them into something infinitely more glorious than they were before they ever shattered. The pain you endured was never a waste, and the long, silent delay was never a denial. I was using every single ounce of your suffering to hollow out a massive, expansive reservoir within your spirit, a capacity large enough to contain the staggering, unprecedented weight of the blessings I am pouring out right now. If I had rushed this timeline, your fragile cup would have shattered under the sheer force of this waterfall. But now, you are incredibly strong. You are beautifully, permanently expanded. You are entirely capable of holding this profound, life-altering miracle without ever losing your deep, intimate connection to me. Let this immense, soaring joy completely overtake you. You are absolutely permitted to celebrate. You are fully allowed to exhale a long, deep breath of profound relief and let the tears of pure, unadulterated happiness stream freely down your face. Do not shrink back from the magnitude of this blessing out of a false sense of unworthiness. You did not earn this miracle through flawless perfection. You received it through the beautiful, stubborn endurance of your faith. You chose to quietly hold my hand in the dark. And now, I am proudly lifting your head in the light. Every single day of agonizing weeping you endured in the shadows is being fiercely, aggressively repaid with overflowing, triumphant shouts of joy in the morning light. You are deeply comforted today, my child. The sharp, stinging memory of your profound suffering is already beginning to fade rapidly, overshadowed by the sheer blinding brilliance of my goodness in your present moment. The story of your life is being completely rewritten for my glory. When the world looks at you now, they will no longer see a victim of tragic circumstances, nor will they see someone permanently defined by their past failures. They are going to see the living, breathing, undeniable evidence of my miraculous intervening hand. They will look at your restored life, your unshakable peace, and your towering, fortified faith, and they will be forced to acknowledge that only the Creator of the universe could orchestrate such a breathtaking redemption. You are my beautiful, radiant masterpiece, deliberately displayed for the entire world to witness the limitless, overwhelming power of my grace. As this glorious dawn continues to rapidly brighten, illuminating every hidden corner of your reality with the warm, golden light of fulfilled promises, I want you to firmly plant your feet on this newly established holy ground. You have fully transitioned from the agonizing silent waiting room into the expansive, limitless sanctuary of your promised land. The battle for your peace has been decisively, permanently won, and the physical manifestation of your miracle is firmly, securely in your grasp. Yet the receipt of the miracle is not the conclusion of our profound journey together. Now that your hands are finally full of the very blessings you so desperately prayed for, a new, deeply sacred responsibility emerges. We must carefully transition your heart to ensure that the magnificent gifts you have just received never somehow replace the intimate, quiet presence of the giver. It is an incredibly common temptation for human hearts to desperately seek my hand for a sudden rescue, only to slowly let go of that very same hand once the safe shore is finally reached. When the intense burning pain of the trial suddenly stops, the urgent daily need for deep communion often fades right along with it. But the profound, sacred bond we have meticulously built together during your long night of waiting is far too precious to ever be reduced to a simple transaction. I did not walk with you through the searing fire and the terrifying flood just to hand you a physical blessing and quietly send you on your way. I walked with you to forge an eternal, unbreakable covenant of peace between us, a deeply intimate relationship that will completely outlast any earthly victory you could ever achieve. The financial freedom, the miraculously healed relationship, the newly opened doors of divine opportunity. These are all beautiful, necessary gifts, and I absolutely delight in pouring them out over your life. But you must always remember, they are not the ultimate prize. I am your exceedingly great reward. The quiet, unhurried intimacy we shared in the shadows, when you had absolutely nothing else to rely on, is the true, lasting treasure of your existence. I want you to hold these breathtaking new blessings with open, wildly grateful hands. But I want you to hold my heart with a fierce, unyielding, permanent grip. Let this magnificent truth sink into the absolute deepest, most vulnerable layers of your soul today. Your long, exhausting season of feeling spiritually stranded is permanently, irreversibly over. You will never again have to wake up in the middle of the night and wonder if you have been completely forgotten or carelessly abandoned in a barren wilderness. You will never again have to question if my prolonged silence is somehow a harsh form of divine punishment for your past mistakes. The profound emotional journey you have just completed has taught you the beautiful, highly complex language of my grace. You now intimately understand that my timing is always flawless, masterfully designed not to cruelly withhold good things from you, but to perfectly prepare your spirit to carry immense blessings without ever being crushed beneath their heavy weight. My endless unconditional love for you has been undeniably proven in the dark, and it will now serve as your impenetrable, blazing shield as you walk confidently in the brilliant light. The heavy, exhausting armor of pure survival that you have worn on your weary shoulders for so many years can finally be taken off and laid permanently at my feet. You are completely safe now. You are entirely, beautifully, and eternally safe. As this massive, life-altering miracle fully arrives and settles warmly into the daily rhythm of your visible reality, I'm extending a powerful, lifelong invitation directly to your spirit. I'm asking you to intentionally continue walking with me, hand in hand, step by step, long after the loud celebration fades, and this incredible new blessing simply becomes your everyday normal. Do not ever let the sudden comfort of this glorious victory dull the razor-sharp spiritual hearing you developed in the valley. I want the quiet, intentional stillness we practice so diligently in the waiting room to become the permanent, defining rhythm of your entire earthly existence. Let us continue to wake up together in the gentle, sacred stillness of the morning, deliberately tuning out the frantic, rushing static of modern society before it even begins to loudly broadcast its heavy demands. Let us continue to fiercely face every single new challenge, every unexpected detour, and every thrilling, open door of opportunity with the exact same unwavering trust that beautifully sustained you in the darkest shadows. The incredible miracle you are holding today is not the final destination of your story. It is simply a glorious, shining milestone, marking the beginning of an even deeper, far more profound adventure with your Creator. You are walking boldly into your future with a profound, radiant, and joyful expectation. You no longer have to look at the days, weeks, and years ahead with a sense of lingering dread or exhausting, paralyzing anxiety. Because you have successfully passed the supreme, agonizing test of the unseen, you know with absolute certainty that absolutely nothing in this world can stand against the divine, unstoppable purpose I have placed upon your life. You are stepping forward today, not just as a weary survivor who barely escaped the violent storm, but as a deeply mature, battle-tested warrior of the light. You are infinitely wiser. You are incredibly stronger. You have carefully developed a towering spiritual maturity that can only be forged under the intense, relentless pressure of the deepest valleys. When the world looks at you now, they will not just see a lucky individual who happened to experience a sudden, unexplained miracle. They will clearly see a living, breathing testament of someone whose entire character, mindset, and soul have been completely, permanently transformed by the miraculous intervening hand of Almighty God. I want the enduring, life-saving truth that carried you safely through this entire journey to stand forever as your permanent, unbreakable life philosophy. Say it to yourself the very moment you wake up and whisper it gently to your soul, right before you fall asleep. My peace comes before my miracle. This is the sacred, unchanging, divine sequence of heaven. Whenever you inevitably face a new intimidating mountain in the years to come, and there will always be new mountains, for that is the challenging nature of this temporary earthly life, you will absolutely not revert to a fragile state of frantic, terrified panic. You will immediately remember this exact, victorious moment. You will clearly remember the excruciating delay, the quiet, stubborn trust you built, and the breathtaking, glorious dawn that followed. You will instinctively choose to rest deeply in my peace first, knowing with absolute, unshakable certainty that the invisible wheels of the miracle are already in rapid motion. Your heart will remain perfectly, flawlessly synchronized with my heavenly frequency, entirely insulated and completely protected from the chaotic, fearful, and toxic noise of the broken world spinning around you. I am sealing these divine instructions deeply into the core of your spirit today. You have successfully learned how to silence the frantic world, and in that holy, intentional silence, you have finally found me. You have discovered the magnificent truth that you do not ever need to constantly strive, nervously manipulate, or exhaust yourself to secure your own future. You only need to remain deeply connected to the vine, allowing my limitless, life-giving grace to flow naturally through you. Everything you thought you had permanently lost in the raging fire is being fully restored, and the beautiful hidden work that was carefully accomplished in the dark is now violently breaking forth into the brilliant light for the entire world to clearly see. Close your eyes one final time in this sacred space, my beloved child, and take a long, deep breath of pure, heavenly freedom. Release the very last lingering shadow of earthly doubt. Let the overwhelming weight of my glory completely surround you, filling every empty corner of your soul with a profound, triumphant joy. I am leaving you today in a state of absolute, complete rest. Your mind is totally clear, your heart is fiercely courageous, and your beautiful future is entirely written in the scarred palm of my loving hand. You are perfectly aligned with my perfect will, heavily armed with an invincible strength. Walk boldly and joyfully into the beautiful, miraculous life I have meticulously prepared for you, knowing with absolute certainty that I am forever with you. I am constantly fighting for you, and I will never let you go. Whenever you need to feel my comforting presence, simply quiet your heart, silence the world, and whisper this prayer from the deepest place in your soul. Father, thank you for your endless unconditional love and for holding me tightly when I was too weak to stand. Thank you for staying with me through the absolute darkest nights and for faithfully leading me into this beautiful, peaceful light. When I feel the world aggressively trying to rush me again, grant me the quiet wisdom to simply pause and remember your perfect, flawless timing. Give me the daily, unyielding strength to walk completely in your grace, trusting firmly that your profound peace will always safely guide my steps before the breakthrough arrives. My heart is entirely joyfully yours today and forever. In Jesus' name, amen.